ladies and gentlemen, our topic is transforming into an AI company post-crisis. And we're very honored that we have with us all our panelists coming up. First up, Piyush Kumar, Group CIO, LuLu Group, an experienced professional working in the areas of retail strategy, business analytics, customer loyalty, and CRM, retail business consulting, and supply chain management. Thank you so much, Piyush, for joining us. Also, we've got Mohammad Sharafuddin, Head of AI Kareem, with 10 plus years of experience in product management. Mr. Sharafuddin possesses technical and product expertise in applied AI at scale using deep learning and reinforcement learning. So thank you so much, Mohammad Sharafuddin, for joining us. Also, we've got with us Latifa Saleh Al-Shehi. She's the Head of Smart Data, Federal Competitiveness and Statistics Authority. Her primary roles of expertise include digital transformation of the statistical business using emerging data sources to create insights and utilizing various tools and technologies to create new data products. Thank you so much, Latifa, for joining us. We've also got Frederick Jerg. He's the Chief Strategy and Business Acceleration Officer, Noor Takaful, has proven numerous successes with worldwide business transformation stemming from his belief in enabling and empowering people to execute on the change strategies. We've got Sumit Puri, Group CTO, Evercare Group, the Group CTO of Evercare Group, with over 25 plus years of IT leadership experience in enterprise, digital transformation, and consulting across geographies. Thank you so much, Sumit, for joining us. And also, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be moderated by Mohammed Abdel Al, the Head of Digital Experience and Innovation Cost, Research and Computing Infrastructure Expert. He's the one who's responsible of making Cost a living lab for digital experiences and innovative concepts. So all our panelists are here with us today, and I would request all our panelists to now kindly unmute and put your video screens on as they are viewing us live today. So over to our panelists and our moderator. Thank you so much.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm just waiting for the panelists to make sure everybody is here. Well, let's get started anyway. So let me do a quick introduction. My name is Mohammed Abdel Al. I'm the Head of Digital Experience and Innovation here at KAUST. KAUST is a university, a research and science university on the Red Sea in Saudi Arabia. If you haven't known it before, please look it up. It's an amazing place and a true living lab for experimentation and digital design. But today's panel is an interesting one, and I want to thank the organizers for putting this together virtually. I'm sure this was not easy, and I'm sure it's a challenge, and I think we're all going to learn a few things today as well. The panel today is about AI in a COVID world. We have a wonderful group of diverse backgrounds and industries. And I'd like to start with a quick round of introductions by the panelists. I don't see their videos, but I hope things are working well. If not, somebody can let me know. At least my video is on, for sure. Well, with that, let's begin maybe with Frederick. Frederick, a quick introduction, please.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. I'm Frederick, and as said during the introduction, I'm heading the strategy and business development department of Noor Takaful, and my job is to transform the business. So it's actually becoming as resilient and sure for the future, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
And then we can go to Mohammed Sharafuddin.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Pleasure to be here. I lead mobility engineering and infra and AI at Kareem. Kareem is the super app of the region. I could talk more about Kareem, but for me, I lead the mobility of people, mobility of things, ride hail, and food and groceries delivery at Kareem. I also lead the data and AI teams and the infrastructure team at Kareem. Before Kareem, I used to work at the Coronel for business integrity at Facebook in Menlo Park. I've been at the Bay Area for about 19 years. And I worked at Facebook. I used to lead an applied AI team, applied AI R&D lab at Samsung. And I used to be working at a startup before that. And I did my PhD at Stanford. And I'm originally from Lebanon, from the Middle East region. Pleasure to be here.
Excellent. Thank you, Mohammed. And we go to Latifa. Latifa, you're on mute, but if you want to try again.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we do.
Yes. So I'd like to just thank the organizers at TrustCon for setting this up, the great organizers, and you as attendees for your time. I'm heading the Smart Data team at the Federal Competitiveness and Statistics Authority, and our vision as the UAE's government is to be among the best nation by the year 2021. And the FCSA is really at the heart of this ecosystem. We're trying to work with other statistical offices locally. We're also handling the competitiveness agenda, and His Highness really wants to be the #1 country in the world. FCSA also established a new department called the Future of Data Department. We look at how do we really take this new innovations, technologies, new data sources, and really bring it closer to the decision maker, because our end goal is to support our decision maker. So in a nutshell, this is what we do at FCSA. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And Piyush?
Hey, good morning, everyone. It is nice to be here. Thank you, TrustCon, and everyone. I am Piyush. I predominantly am the Group Chief Information Officer at LuLu Group. I'm pretty sure LuLu is a very household name, so I don't need to introduce LuLu as such. But I'm responsible for kind of adopting the digital strategy, defining the digital strategy, and leading the transformation from technology, AI, and other stuff at LuLu for all the operations in 22 countries. And prior to this, I have more than 2 decades of experience working in various retailers like Walmart, Tesco, Target, and the likes of those. So at heart, I'm a kind of retail technologist, and I look forward to this discussion and learn from the panelists, and maybe share some thoughts of the experience that I've learned.
Great, thank you. And last but not least, Sumit. Sumit, can you hear us? I actually believe that maybe we don't have him on the panel for some reason. All right, well, we're going to try to see if we can bring him in. But in the meantime, let's begin our panel discussion. This is the first time I moderate a panel on a virtual world like this, so bear with us if we make mistakes. I apologize for that in advance. We're going to talk about COVID-19, obviously, and the challenge that it brings. COVID-19 is changing everything we have taken for granted in the past. It's challenging our strategies around business and consumer relationships. It's changing how we interact with each other. It's changing our supply chains. It's also giving us an opportunity to do things differently and more efficiently. And perhaps there's a chance here to make the best out of what we have today with COVID-19. We want to hear from our panelists. We have a diverse group of consumer-oriented industries, mobility, healthcare, insurance. So we want to begin by getting their view on what's happening. We'll begin with Muhammad Sharafuddin, and Kareem is a very consumer-centric organization, as we know. What is Kareem doing today in the area of mobility to respond to the COVID-19 challenge with everything happening between your fleets and cars and captains? How is Kareem responding to this, Muhammad?
So Kareem's mission is to be the everyday super app and to simplify lives for the millions, hundreds of millions of people in the region. When the COVID hit, mobility got affected, similar to how the travel industry got affected. In some parts of our the mobility of people area, we've seen a drop of up to 80% of our volume. We've got hit by curfews, citywide curfews. We had to adapt And we had to also focus on the safety of our captains, who are what we call captains are the drivers. And we focus on the safety of our customers. So we doubled down on safety. We doubled down on cleaning the vehicles, safety precautions. We rolled out safety toolkit on the app. And we were able to, be nimble, make some fast decisions during the peak of the crisis. On the other hand, some silver lining happened where, with people, sheltering in place at homes, there's increased demand on services for mobility of things. And we already have Kareem now, so we saw a lot of increase in the groceries deliveries, essentials deliveries. So we doubled down on that at the beginning of Q2. The other silver lining that we've seen is that with everyone staying in their homes, they had to depend more and more on the digital economy. They have to depend more and more on the digital life. So we are seeing an acceleration of the digital transformation in the region. This is great for us at Kareem because we've been planning to launch the super app and transform ourselves from a mobility company into a super app company. That has been something that we've been working on in late 2019. We accelerated that in beginning of 2020. And pre-COVID, we were a mobility company. In June, we became a super app company. So you've seen COVID push the companies to evolve, to shape their direction a little bit. And we've embraced that at Kareem. We have mobility, we have payment, and we have a super app where we'll be opening that platform to external tenants in the region. But at the same time, we have to make some difficult choices. Some of those choices where we had to pause Kareem Bus for mass transportation. In a world of COVID, such products does not make sense in 2020. So we paused that. We might resume that in 2021. We had to preserve cash. We had to renegotiate all of our contract. We have to do cost reduction initiatives on the technology side, on the operation side. We stopped subsidies. We stopped promotions. So we were in a situation where we have to be super capital efficient in order to preserve our cash and runway. And we have to also be nimble as an organization to allow us to move quickly in these tough times. And so it helped us to be more focused and helped us to really live the ruthless prioritization exercise in our planning for the remainder of the year. And it kind of polished us to say no to 10 things and yes only to one thing.
Wonderful, Mohammed. Thank you very much. That sounds like a very interesting times for you. Speaking of consumers, we're going to switch it over to Piyush from a retail perspective. How is the retail sector reacting to these challenges? I know supermarkets and supply chain in general and anything to do with retail is also being challenged right now. Can you give us an idea of how you respond to that challenge?
Sure.
We heard you the first time. Are you still there? Piyush, can you hear us? We might have lost Piyush, but we might go back to him. We'll keep things moving, and again, we expect technical challenges as usual, but we'll overcome those. So Piyush, if you can hear me, we'll switch it over to Frederick here, and we'll come back to you again, Piyush, if you don't mind. All right, Frederick. So speaking of of COVID-19, do you see chances or opportunities to introduce more tools, more techniques to accelerate what we do, such as RPA, robotic process automation? You're an expert in that field, and I know you've been working on that. So what opportunities can we do today to become more efficient?
Oh yeah, that's a good question that I could speak about for hours. But let me just take one step back and say that for the COVID, the insurance industry was not initially affected that much because the insurance products they had to continue and people they would still need the insurance. That being said, of course the virtualization of everything demanded us to do a lot of things. So all of a sudden we could service all our policyholders digitally. Traditionally, insurance has been very much paper pushing, especially here in the region. So that was one of our first challenges, understanding how we could actually get these documents back and forth. And doing that, we had to change some of our processes, and we had to really quick install some digital signing tools so we could start exchanging documents instead of having to get them physically. Now, we will expect a drop in demand over the next period of time because we've seen so many, unfortunately, people going out of business or losing their jobs, and that will for sure affect the insurance industry. So we have to prepare for that. And the way we do that is exactly, as you say in your question, we're looking into automation of as much as we can, digitization of as much as we can. We start with looking at the processes in the company. If we want to do any changes, we have to understand how is the processes running in the company today, how are we servicing our customers, how are we servicing our partners. And based on that, we will go in and look at, okay, if this is the process today, how can we make it more streamlined tomorrow, and how will we be using RPA and artificial intelligence to make this much easier. So that's where we are. Luckily, we had some time, some response time. It didn't hit us. The thing that hit us was of course the remote work policy. So we had to be digital in the document exchange, as I said. But we've had some months now to relook at how do we want to evolve as a company to be more resilient for the future. And of course, I would say if you look at the predictions for the markets, luckily the number of cases seem to be stabilizing or coming down. But I think we'll see a second wave, not necessarily of the virus, but a second wave hitting the economy when people start to leave the country and we're getting used to a new normal after the pandemic. So as an insurance company, basically as a company, we have to focus on becoming much more flexible and agile. We have to be able to move with the fluctuations in the markets, and the more automated, the more digitized we are, the easier it is for us to scale up or scale down at a lower cost risk to meet the market demands, whether they're going up or down. So that's one of our biggest focus areas at the moment, understanding what traditional tasks can actually be handled faster and more efficient by robotics, and what can we do to rescale the people who are working with these tedious tasks so they are actually capable of helping us becoming a stronger company for the future. So we're looking into how can we actually rescale the talent that we have to match the new roles, because starting with robotics or artificial intelligence is not just flicking a switch and then it's working. You still need a lot of people to run it behind the scenes, and that's what we want to rescale and retrain our staff to be able to. So that's where we are. And yes, of course, RPA and artificial intelligence is going to play a big role in this. Thank you.
Got it. So automation will make you stronger in the future. We're going to go back to Piyush and hope we can get him back here. Piyush, can you hear us? From a retail perspective, how are consumers and retailers reacting to this?
Sure. I hope people are able to hear me now.
Yes, we do.
Excellent. So obviously, retail was put into a very different and a difficult challenge. While we know that the hospitals and the other essential services, retail, the food retail was also declared as an essential service. Yeah. So it was important for us as a retailer to kind of abide by that duty to make sure that food is available to people during this pandemic time. And it was with the help of kind of the government. It was the help with
Piyush, can you hear us? I think you cut off. I'm afraid we can't hear you. I think there's a network quality connection issue because you're cutting off a little bit. No. I think we lost you again, Piyush, unfortunately. I apologize for that. We will definitely try again, and Piyush, if you hear us, we'll try to come back to you again. I think the connection. Yeah, you're cutting off in and out, so it sounds like a network bandwidth issue. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Still cutting off and disconnected. Okay, well, we're going to switch it over a little bit to talk about the role of government. So, governments, COVID-19, and healthcare institutions and organizations are having a major role in this, and it's a challenge for everybody. Latifa, from a government perspective, you're a data expert, and there's massive data that comes along to identify patterns and help us respond faster. But is it difficult to make sense of this data if you don't have a strategy already? I believe. So, what are you seeing in governments today, and what are you seeing the UAE responding in terms of data and the value of data in this situation? Can you hear us, Latifa?
Yes, can you hear me? It's okay.
Yes. Thank you.
So data today has become a valuable asset, as you mentioned clearly, and it's been sold, it's been bought, people are using it. And over the past 2 years alone, we've created like 90% of all the data that's previously generated. As governments, we kind of face information overload. And how can we really make sense of that data to battle these challenges happening today? And to really capture the power of data and use it to improve people's lives. Around the world, we see governments moving to online systems, introducing new platforms, and really sharing and opening up their data. Now, in the UAE, we see clear examples of different government bodies coming together and working together to enable the policy and decision makers to make the right decisions. In Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Ajman, we see them being created, and we see departments of data coming into place, where their role is really to support the government in harnessing the power of data. And on a federal level, us at FCSA, we lead the open data portal of the UAE. So we have published more than 2,000 data sets that can support the community researchers to really look at different trends across the board. And one of the interesting initiatives we've launched in the times of COVID was the Open Data Race. Now, the Open Data Race was really a competition to really unlock the data and the power of data in 14 government entities. From them were the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Energy, and we were able to collect more than 250 data sets in a 10-year time series. And it's also already published on the portal. Another interesting thing that happened in the time of COVID in regards of the UAE, we've signed an MOU to really be the first regional hub of the United Nations. So this is under the UN Global Working Group for Big Data. And what we're trying to do is look at these new data sources as a data collective of different countries around the world and private sector, and really look at how can we solve real-time challenges using new data sources such as big data. So our end goal through all of this is to really leave no one behind and follow the UN Sustainable Development Goal agenda of really uplifting our nations and work collectively. Thank you.
Very interesting. Thank you, Latifa. We're gonna go back to Piyush if you're back. Let's give it one more try again from a retail perspective. Unfortunately, it is not working, Piyush. I think there's a network bandwidth issue that is causing the voice to jitter and cut off. Yeah, no, sorry. It's the world of virtual conferences, but that was expected. Let's go back to Sumit. In the introduction, we missed you, Sumit. If you don't mind, if you can introduce yourself quickly, and let's talk about the healthcare pressure in responding to COVID-19. You guys have been the champions of dealing with COVID-19 at the front. So what are the emerging models of healthcare post-COVID-19? Is it going to leverage more AI, more data for diagnostics, infectious disease control? Tell us more about healthcare.
Sure. Thank you, Mohammed. So very quick introduction. I have about 25 years experience in various geographies and currently am the group CTO for Evercare. I worked with PwC as a consultant, also with GE and Max Healthcare, besides multiple other companies overall. But healthcare has been extremely interesting, very, very exciting, and particularly so in COVID times, because it requires a different mindset, a different thought process to adjust to this quickly. So frankly, when COVID happened, people felt healthcare would probably do very well. But then I believe there was still a concern about the fear of infections, when coming to hospitals. Therefore, the OPD volumes dropped quite significantly. And that's something we've tried to address with telemedicine, with the new digital models, remote monitoring of COVID patients, and again, very innovative models which could help us in really catering to the concerns of patients and also ensuring proper assured healthcare for patients. The big thing, of course, really is that most doctors today are in some sense digital immigrants. So it's important that we help them embrace technology in a very simple and effective manner. And that's what we've done. We've tried to go through and handhold them, guide them through this process, make them much more comfortable with technology, help them with the telemedicine and teleconsults, video consults, also educate patients, because that also is equally important. So it's been a very interesting journey. I think we're now looking at new digital models. We're looking at ways in which we can capture prescriptions and really make it a lot more easier for us to capture patient records. And hopefully AI will really help us when we actually start collating this data as per standards to really give augmentation to our doctors, to really help them make even better decisions, because they have a body of knowledge to go by. So I think it's very interesting times, and we look forward to further enhancing the value of patient outcomes, the value of overall healthcare through smart use of data and AI. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the future. And I know nobody can predict the future, but let's give it a try. What does the future hold in a post-COVID-19 world to our business strategy and organization design? Will AI scale faster? Will agile techniques gain momentum? Will the mindset of people and citizens change to easily adapt a new normal? Latifa, let's go back to you if you don't mind. Will the new normal change the way the government is interacting with citizens? Do we need more data about people? And how will that impact privacy? Because there's a balance between too much data and people privacy, and every country, every region reacts differently to it. Europe is different than the Middle East, obviously. But what do you see happening right now in the new normal moving forward?
So, as you've all seen, we've moved from having physical services to really a very digital government, and we really try to be agile in a sense. Our main goal is to support our policymakers, and in our statistical business, the decision makers will not wait 6 months to receive the results of a survey. They really want fast data that they can rely on. Some of the decision makers, they don't care if the data is not 100% accurate. They're okay with 70% accurate, but it gives you a pulse of what's happening in the governments. So the need for data will never stop. And we see that in times of COVID. What we try to do in the FCSA is really support our partners in the government and provide them with necessary data. Now, we moved from surveys to more administrative data sources, and we've launched one of our projects. It's called the Emirates Data Network. Its aim is to support the data sharing across governments to provide a comprehensive, uniform data at a national level. As you all know, we are a federal system. So we have 7 different statistical offices, we have 7 different healthcare systems, we have 7 different educational partners that we work on. So it's really challenging to bring them all together. And what we're trying to do is standardize, classify, and really provide insights on the key services that or data that is needed today. Do we need more data? Yes, we always need more data. We won't say no. But I believe the key of having so much data is, we all know, without data, there is no AI. And our leaders here appointed the new Minister of AI and Digital Economy. So this is a new role added to him. And now he's looking at how can we really get the e-commerce and the blockchain and all of that embedded in the data ecosystem. Around the world, governments, we see this new trend of governments and private sector really coming together and working as one. Maybe some data that was deemed private data previously, today with the dollar sign, today we see some private sector entities are really opening up their data, such as Google, Apple, MasterCard, Visa, and all the mobile companies in the world. They're really supporting governments in identifying the challenges and really supporting us in creating new policies based on maybe somewhat new data sources. When it comes to privacy, there should be a balance. Yes, in the government, the most we need data on a granular level, but it's very important to keep the privacy element. But we see new trends coming into play today, like personal data monetization. And this is new. People are taking back their power and really getting money for their data. There are new applications coming into play, like Digime, if you heard of it. They're really one of the applications that you can harness your own data and create decisions. But our end goal in government is really to create a culture of data sharing and a community, and to strive to be the leading nation by the year 2071. Thank you.
Very interesting indeed. Piyush, we're going to give it one more try with you again in terms of new methodologies that business could start applying to survive this change. Let's see if we're able to get you here.
Yeah, so being agile is one of the key factors that people need to adopt. And I think that is what has been proven in these tough times. So being agile, trying to be innovative, using a lot of data, these are predominant ways by which organizations need to start adopting new ideas within that. And as I was telling in the past, when people are not able to hear, is that the entity and the enterprise as it is today has to be transformed. The organization cannot be the same as it was pre-COVID. The organization need to be very, very different. And so things like how transformative you are, your ability to look at data points, understand and make meaning out of it. And obviously, it is no longer a business to consumer kind of a thing, and it will more move towards consumer led. And one of the things that will change from a retail perspective is the consumer is now becoming in the driving seat. They will dictate what they want rather than the organizations giving them what they have been giving them in the form and the shape that they have been kind of reaching out to customers. Now they have to basically make customers their partners. They have to make sure that they give chance for the customers to give feedback in their, for example, the e-commerce journey, right? We were able to look at e-commerce journeys very, very differently as part of our COVID experience. And the customers gave us a lot of feedback, which we are now taking back and then kind of redesigning some of the things. Consumers are now looking at variety and a variety with convenience.
Piyush, we got the best of you, but unfortunately, I think the slowness kicked in again. But we heard almost everything perfectly. All right, thank you, Piyush. Frederick, let's go back to Frederick. With insurance and healthcare, today, how's it going to be in the future? Is insurance and healthcare going to depend on more AI models to react to pandemics if things happen again like this in the future?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And I have to say it was very interesting to hear what Mr. Tifa said about getting data and sharing data between organizations, because that is one of the ways that you can help. I'm not saying prevent, but at least fight the COVID, because if you start using artificial intelligence and you start understanding in what areas it has the largest outbreak, you can also use the data to see the people who are most at risk, and then you would be able to trace that back to an insurance portfolio of customers and identify the people there and take preventive measures to reduce the risk of them getting infected. So yes, data and artificial intelligence is going to help for sure. I have one thing which is a personal experience that I think is important to be mentioned also, because there's no doubt that artificial intelligence exchange of data will enable businesses to make faster and better and smarter decisions. However, as Mr. Piyush also say, we have to be agile. But saying it is one thing, and what I'm seeing a lot of organizations, and especially insurance companies, are struggling with at the moment is actually understanding what is agile, how do we do it, and even when you have the understanding of what agile is, that is one thing, and actually changing an organization to become agile is a completely different beast. So I would, as a personal experience, I would say one of the first things that all of us we have to do is actually understanding how do we take our organizations and turn them around so they are capable of dealing with the amount of data that is coming in, that is available. Because right now, the fewest organizations are the governments who are blessed with the resources and the power to get the things done. And it's fantastic because they are really doing a great job for the economy as such. Many companies, though, they still need to understand how do we structure ourselves, how do we get our processing in place, how do we get ready for using all these data, how do we act on them. So yes, I think it's AI is going to play a major role in the future to prevent or reduce the risk of pandemics. But for insurers and companies, it's our responsibility now to create a company that is capable of dealing with these data and artificial intelligence. Thank you.
Great, and I can fully agree with you about transforming to agile is not easy. It's a mindset of people and organizations, and I'm actually working on that as we speak, and it's a challenge. Sumit, are healthcare systems changed forever? Will they ever be back as before, or the doctor-patient relationship is going to change and evolve how we do diagnostics and how do we do the treatments? I was speaking to somebody yesterday who's getting all the medical advice now over video conferencing, and she's not going anymore to face-to-face clinics. Is diagnostics changing?
We hope so. Absolutely. I think clearly there is now a lot more awareness and a lot more acceptance, to the change. In fact, we've got senior doctors also coming up to us and saying we'd like to try telemedicine and video consults. So they did, there was a joke going around saying earlier, was it the CIO or the CTO or the CEO who brought about digital transformation? I think it was COVID. In some sense, that's something which is coming out very, very categorically. But look, frankly, the biggest thing, as I think some of our fellow members mentioned, I think the power of data has to be harnessed. We have to basically be able to understand the standards that will be most useful, which will allow us to get good insights from this data. So we need to have a very clear data strategy in place. We need to make our organizations, responsive and also aligned to collect this data well, and then use the power of data to really make better decisions. So it's important that the doctors, the operations teams, the IT members, and management works together to really kind of decide the strategy and make sure that it can be harnessed in the favor of the patient. So yes, diagnostics will change. Yes, AI will help, because you do see a lot of benefits already coming. You see a lot of technologies today, giving almost 85%, 90% successful results in radiology images for that matter. And yes, they will also be helping us in augmenting doctor intelligence, by giving them a body of information which would be very useful for the doctor to make the right diagnosis. Because you've got they say number 3 cause of deaths is just the wrong diagnosis, because the doctor doesn't have enough time. So this would give you, in fact, the patient can partner with you in giving information. So the trust factor, because you actually entering information maybe in an AI engine or and you probably have information available to the doctor beforehand about what the potential diagnosis could be. So there is, I think, a element of complementarity, of partnership, which would become much more prominent as we go forward, and it will actually help us in improving outcomes. So I think interesting times.
So AI supported diagnostics of the future.
Absolutely.
Interesting world. Muhammad, we want to wrap up with you. We're actually quite doing good on time, right on time. So Muhammad, from an organizational perspective, I know you're passionate about this. How can organizations change to be better prepared for the future? Again, around agility, decision making, what are you seeing?
I think we start with mission statement at Careem. Mission statement is to make everyday life simple. And then we trickle down the mission statement across the company and see how we are better serving the mission statement. For the data and AI, we have a mission statement to accelerate competitive value from data. And therefore, we need an acceleration of getting value out of the data. By this, we have different teams where we have a team on the big data platform to ingest different varieties of data at scale. Use techniques like Kafka, Presto, Stack. And then after we ingest this variety of data, we need to clean up this data and have a single source of truth for this data. There's always fresh, there's always up to date. We have a data warehousing team that manages this data, the clarity of that data. And now that we ingest the data, we clean up the data, we trust the data. Now we need to make sense of that data. So we have a data science team, an AI team that uses this data to build machine learning models. And we have an AI enterprise team that will accelerate the data scientists to get their models into production, to train them, build them, test them, and roll them out, and analyze their drift, analyze their performance, and make sure that we could quantify the value that they create. So there's an element of focusing on impact, and the only way you could measure impact is through A/B testing and experimentation. We also have an experimentation team that allows us to measure impact, differential impact, or incremental marginal impact by launching new models or getting new sources of data. So I'd like to be as quantitative as possible. And we have a team that will also bridge the gap between the data that we see and generate to create insights and to be embedded with the business and to be kind of the voice of the data for the businesses and for the decision making. So we have a team that handles the narrative creation that the data is telling you, and this will feed in our decision making circles to monitor the experience. In a world of COVID where subsidy is slashed, you cannot buy growth, you cannot retain users with a suboptimal user experience, you need to focus on, you need to obsess about the user experience. To obsess on the user experience, to make it delightful, you need to understand the user context, you need to understand the user pains and gains, the needs of the customer, what makes them delightful, what makes an experience delightful. And we need to build machine learning models to personalize, to recommend, to learn through interaction with that user. And we need to, so there's a contextual analytics, anticipatory, predicting what's going on, and there's a level of learning through interaction at a cluster, at a segment level, and also at a personal user level.
Very interesting indeed, and I think we can all relate to such topics. We are right at the half hour here, and I think this is our time. I believe we don't have time for questions, but I want to thank the panelists for everything they've done so far. I would love to meet you guys at some point face-to-face and everybody else. So thank you again for the opportunity to present here at the summit. and I'll turn it over to our MC.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining in once again to all our incredible panelists being on board.